Hello everyone, this is Adam for RealHomeRecording.com. In a previous recent video series, I showed you guys my favorite plugins. However, it was a very long video series. And for some of you, you might be like, dude, that's like thousands and thousands of dollars of software. So I understand that it is out of the budget of most people. And like I said in the previous video, these are plugins that I've bought over about a 10-year period, all right? A 10-year period of time. But if you want awesome plugins that you can afford right now, these are the ones that I recommend. The must-haves. So first of all, here's a freebie. This is Variety of Sound / Tokyo Dawn Labs Slick EQ. It gives you a variety of equalizer types. You can choose that and that and that. Again, it is a free plugin, although they do offer a more advanced gentleman's edition for a very cheap price. But Slick EQ, you can get a lot of things done with this equalizer. Next up is the Blue Cat Course. Again, another freebie. If you need a coursing plugin, check it out. This one is the old school Reverb. It is another free one from Voxengo. And if you need reverb, it sounds good. The next one is another Voxengo plugin called the Tempo Delay. If you need delay, check it out. Again, free. Here is a gain plugin from Blue Cat. It has a 60 decibel range on both sides, and it works very well when you need automation on volume. It's free. Here's another one. These are all free, actually. All the ones up until a little bit down here. So this one allows you to make any plugin mid-side compatible. Span is a free metering plugin. Highly recommended. I use it a lot. I've used it for years, and it has never let me down. It just works very well. You know, the timing of their frequency spectrum just makes a lot of visual sense. Next up, we have another metering plugin that's free, and this one is from IK Multimedia. It allows you to have different loudness perception for different genres. You know, if I select a different one, see how that portion changes, and the green versus the red. So I love using this, and it works well. It worked well back in like 2009, but there's been better loudness plugins released since then, but this one still works well. And it also has a correlation meter, which helps with monocompatibility. So that's why I like it. Okay, speaking of loudness meters, this one's another free one, and this works great if you do mixes for like TV shows or movies. It allows you to have different metering selections. But yeah, like I said, it's free. If you use it a lot, I would donate to the guy that makes it. But yeah, definitely a cool plugin, whether you're mixing for broadcast or mixing music. Next up, here's a cheap, clean equalizer plugin. It is super versatile. Look at all those different filter modes you can do. Look at all the different bands you can add. I call this the poor man's FabFilter Pro Q. Pro Q is a great clean equalizer, but so is this one, and you can buy this for, I believe, $30 or $40. Sometimes it's on sale even cheaper than that, but IIEQ Pro from DDMF, awesome plugin, a must-have if you ask me. So, all right, Pink does what IIEQ can't, and that is that character, and API equalizers are just industry standard. They are awesome. They are high fidelity, and I love this plugin. I use this plugin on nearly every track, and it gets great results. If you're impressed by my mixes, it's because of this plugin. I've had this plugin for almost a year now, and it still hasn't gotten old. Besides the EQ section, it also has some nice saturation. I'll often use it on this setting, which tends to bring out the mid-range. It has like a more aggressive sound to it, so it sounds awesome on distorted guitars. It sounds awesome on drums. Not so much on vocals, unless you're doing like heavy metal, like roar, Cookie Monster type stuff, but it sounds good on the EQ setting and the comp setting. Now, that's the other half of the plugin, the compressor. Supposedly, it is a sampling of an API 2500, which works fantastically well on a drum bus. It also works okay on the mix bus, although I use other plugins for that. But the fact that you not only get two equalizers, the API 550A and B, but you also get an API 2500 type of emulation all in one plugin for, I believe this is like $170. Fantastic deal. Like I said, between these two plugins, IIEQ and Pink and Slick, and then later I'm going to talk about another plugin that I use a lot. Between all those equalizers, I am covered. But if I only had one to use, based on hardware, it would be Pink. But having just these two, IIEQ and Pink, is enough for pretty much anything I need to do, really. All right, but I do like versatility. And one thing that Pink does not do is the API 560 equalizer. That's where this plugin comes in, and that's where the QG from Volco stands out. Now, they also have API 550A and B plugins, but since I'm covered with Pink, I don't really use them that often. However, what's great about this plugin, look down here. 0 samples. So it is a zero latency plugin. It uses up very little computer resources and RAM resources. So basically, if I wanted to use Pink in a full mix, but because I'm running out of RAM or I'm running out of processor power, Volco works well. It doesn't sound exactly the same past about 6 decibels of boost, but again, you can't use this in Pink. You can't have the 560 API EQ in Pink, so this works very well. And it's somewhat on the expensive side, but it works well. You get fast results and good results. What more can you ask for in an equalizer, right? All right, next up is the British channel from IK Multimedia. Again, if all I had were 2 options, I would go with Pink and IIEQ. However, what I love British channel for is it has a built-in compressor for the tracks and a gate if you need that for drums, especially tom drums. But what I love about this is that it complements the API EQ very well. So basically what I do is when I'm recording, I will use the Pink EQ and I'll get my sound that way, and then I'll render that out as a process file. I'll keep my raw file. I call this mixing on the go, by the way. So I'll pretend like I have a hardware EQ. I'll pretend like I have an API 550 A or B, and I'll make that recorded to tape. I'll process that with like light compression and tape compression, and maybe even I'll put like Slate VCC on it. But the point is, I'll have my raw track sounding awesome by the time it comes to being put into the mix. And then this just finishes it off. The SSL 4000 is an excellent console, but it's out of the price range for most of us guys out there. It costs as much as a car or a house even, but it works extremely well. It's got a nice, aggressive, but clean tone to it, and it works on a variety of genres. I wouldn't use it for like classical music or jazz or maybe even, well, EDM, it would work on EDM. But for like rock, pop, country, rap, this plugin works great. And again, I usually use it after Pink does its job and mainly for mixing purposes. And like I said, it has track compression that works pretty well. I highly recommend this plugin. Next up, Nova, a freebie. It sounds nice and smooth, but clean. But the best part of this plugin is the fact that you can use it as a dynamic equalizer. So basically, it combines an equalizer with a compressor so that anytime your frequency spectrum goes over a certain point that you've, told it like, okay, I want to cut in this section. And then in this section, if it goes over a certain period, it needs to cut even more. when you see this plugin in action, which unfortunately I didn't put an audio signal on here, otherwise you could see it. But basically what it does is it bounces this up and down. Again, anytime it passes over the threshold that you set, this plugin just works extremely well. It's free. Now you can buy the paid version that has more options, like it has more like high pass and low pass options. Plus you can add it so that I believe you can boost past a certain threshold. So the paid version has better options in it, but the free version is my go-to on vocals. Vocals, I don't know how I mix vocals before I use this plugin. You know, I kind of just got away with okay sounding vocals, but this one makes it so that vocals sound pretty much like you want them to sound. And Nova is a must-have. Like I said, it's free, so you may as well download it. Next up is a must-have, in my opinion. It's the Virtual Mix Rack Bundle from Slate Digital. Again, we have an SSL equalizer. We have a Neve 1073, which I haven't talked about yet. Neve is another very famous equalizer / preamp brand. And yeah, the Neve 1073 is a classic. It sounds excellent, especially on vocals. So what I can't do with Nova, I'll do with this. So a lot of times I'll actually put the 1073, the FGN, prior to Nova and get my sounds that way. Obviously, you can use the 1073 on whatever source you want, but it especially works well with vocals. You also have the Monster, which is a freebie plugin. This is the all buttons in part of the 1176, which is what the FG116 is. The 1176 compressor is one of the most famous hardware compressors out there, and it gets like a nice aggressive sound. It's one of the first compressors ever that allowed you to compress a signal without it sounding like it was compressed, if that makes any sense. But yeah, it works well on a lot of material, so that's why I recommend this plugin, along with this compressor, the FG401, which I can't recommend enough. This bundle is just awesome to use. And it also has Revival. Here's another free plugin. But yeah, it actually, the ones you buy are the 116, the 401, the FGN, and the FGS. So I believe it was like $150 when I got it. I don't know what the price is these days, but the Mix Rack bundle, classic stuff, and it just works well. All right, here's another must-have. Again, delay is a must-have effect, and Echo Boy pretty much fulfills all the needs. CMX, I recommend this. Now, technically, you can use it for free. You're not really supposed to. But Stillwell CMX, Stillwell in general, they make awesome plugins. But this plugin I use a lot on vocals to make things sound bigger. And the alternative to that is the Little Micro Shift. And either of these plugins work good, but you know, they have their different sound to them. So if you can get both, get both. But it just makes vocals and anything that you want to have a sound where it doesn't have a sound of delay or reverb, but it just makes it sound bigger. And that's the trick of making things sound big and bold and professional, is the pitch shift and the slight delay. And these plugins also sound better. Instead of you having to try to do that yourself manually, they made it so that mono compatibility is built in. Okay, just wrapping up the last few plugins here. Phoenix Verb, awesome, great little reverb for pretty much any source you can throw at it, from vocals to guitar to full mixes. I use this plugin on everything. Not everything, but anything that needs reverb. Phoenix Verb is the first one I choose for good reason. Trigger 2, pretty much it makes my drums sound awesome. And that's because I'm often recording drums that, you know, the musician can't afford to put on brand new drum heads after every song. So this gets used, or they're using a crappy drum set like I have, or they're just whatever. For whatever reason, the drums don't sound good. This makes them sound good. The only thing is you can't replace cymbals with trigger. Everything else though, kick, snare, tom drums, it's awesome for. Magic AB, as I've said in previous videos, this is a must-have. It allows you to compare your mix to other previously mixed and mastered songs right in your DAW, and it's a great practical plugin to own. Slate VCC. Now we're getting to the section where you may or may not need it. This plugin is pretty subtle for a lot of people, but basically it simulates running tracks through a virtual console, and you have a variety of choices. You can have an SSL 4000G, an SSL 4000E, an API, I believe 1608, and then we have a Neve, I forget what the model number, like a vintage Neve console, a Trident console, and then you have in like an old school RCA broadcast console, which has like a tube sound to it. So you have a bunch of different consoles in this collection. And again, for some people it's subtle. I like using it on most mixes, most music mixes. But again, it may be too subtle for your ears and it may not be worth the money to spend. So it's not an absolute must-have, but it's just something that I definitely use on every mix. So that's why I put it on this list. And then here we go. Isotope Ozone, awesome plugin. I can't recommend it enough. I've been using it for years and I recommend it. I recommend the newer version, Ozone 7. It has a fantastic brick wall limiter in it, maybe the best one that's out there on the market. And but yeah, Ozone 5 is what I use, but Ozone 7 obviously has surpassed it. Do not get Ozone 6. Ozone 7 is the one to get. And then finally, last but definitely not least, and the one I consider to be the most important plugin to own, and that is the ARC2 plugin from IK Multimedia. This is a speaker/room calibration plugin that allows you to hear your mixes as they actually sound and as they will translate on a variety of playback systems. If you don't use a plugin like this, and the one that I recommend these days is SonarWorks Reference 3, but if you don't have a plugin like this and your mixes aren't translating well on different speakers, like, you know, you go and you mix something and you're like, oh man, I thought my low end was fine, but it wasn't, or I thought my high end was fine. Well, that's because you need a plugin like this, or the one, like again, like I said, the one I recommend these days is SonarWorks Reference 3, but ARC works really well still to this day. And the other thing I recommend if you're in the market for speakers is the IK Multimedia iLoud speakers. I've read enough good reviews and heard enough good YouTube reviews to recommend these speakers, even though I haven't tried them myself. I wanted to by now, but whatever. I bought a graphics card instead. But the iLoud micro monitors, the only thing I don't really like about them is apparently there's an issue with low-end ripple, and also I don't like the fact that they did not include either XLR or quarter-inch inputs. They instead used an 1/8-inch TRS input, which I found to be ridiculous. So at this point, I'm kind of waiting for the iLoud 2s to be announced, if that happens anytime soon. But in the meantime, check out the iLoud micro monitors. If you don't want that for whatever reason, if those two issues are a concern of yours, Mackie makes nice little speakers. I will put the model name on screen right now, but Mackie makes speakers that are in the same range, that are in the same price range as the iLouds. I can't recommend them specifically, but if you're in the market, they're a different speaker to try out in that price range. All right, guys. Well, I hope you learned something. Like I said, you don't need to own all of these plugins. And in fact, I could probably get away with using free plugins, which sometime in the near future, I plan on challenging myself by using just a Shure SM57 to record with, and then I'm going to mix and master with nothing but free plugins. But I don't like having limited options. So again, the absolute must-haves, if I were on a super tight budget, obviously I can keep the free ones. So going through these, All of these are free. Okay. I have to have this. I need a clean equalizer, so this is a must-have. Pink is a must-have. I don't really need this. I don't really need this. Nova's free. I don't really need these either, although I would like to have them for their compression characteristics. I can use free compressors like ReaComp, and Echo Boy is a must-have in my opinion. CMX, I like it, but I don't really need it, although like I said, you can use it for free, so I'm going to keep that on screen. Phoenix Verb, I love it, but it's expensive, so no. Trigger, it depends. If I'm not recording with bad drums, then I don't really need it, but Trigger, I would like to have. Magic AB is not a super must-have because I can always AB for free. That's why I just deleted it. VCC is not must-have. And Ozone, this is a tough one, but I would say that based on the fact that I can download free harmonic equalizers, free stereo imager plugins, and a free brick wall limiter in LoudMax, I don't really need Ozone 5. Now, I definitely need this plugin though. So this is the ultimate list of must-have plugins, in my opinion, for audio engineering as of spring 2017. The ones that I know, the ones I'm familiar with. Again, I'm probably missing ones that are free or better or whatever, but these are the ones that I consider to be absolute must-haves to get the job done. You know, you can't go wrong with this list right here. Again, replacing ARC with SonarWorks reference. Reference 3 all the way as of right now. But who knows, maybe ARC 3 will come out and it'll be even better, but who knows. But yeah, so this is the final list, guys. Oops, let me make there we go. Final list right here. I'll leave it up on screen. But yeah, guys, good luck with mixing. Good luck with recording. It's fun. It can be frustrating sometimes, but try to make it fun. That's the key to doing this audio engineering thing. Trust me, if you're not having fun, then it's just not, you're not going to put your best effort in, and your music will suffer for it, or somebody else's music will suffer. So there we go. Those are the tools. Get to mixing. This has been Adam for RealHomeRecording.com.